Hey guys, welcome to day 9 of Unlocked in 30. And today's topic is movement sequencing. So before we talked about different movement patterns that we go through, for example, front and back is your sagittal plane, side to side of the frontal plane, and then your transverse, which is rotation. And these are just different movement that are basically our joints go through, but our body in general when we're doing, whether it's general motion, exercise, transfers. So what I want to talk to you more about is so much actual movement patterns, but more or less your structure when you're going to work out or do a performance activity. So when we're talking about performance, we're talking about maybe some kind of physical activity, whether it's just in general, like weight training, maybe you're doing cardio, maybe you're an athlete, or maybe you're just trying to get back to the gym, you're not really sure, what you want to do. So I want to hit on real quick is movement sequencing, the four categories that I always try to address when we go through, whether it's someone that's working out for performance, maybe you're just warming up, or maybe you have an injury or you're rehab and you're trying to do the recovery phase. Either way, you want to follow the same structure, the unlocked phase, where we unlock the body and go through the different movement patterns of one, mobility, which is motion of the joints. Your joints can only move so many different directions because of the shape of the way they're formed and they connect with other joints. The second part is the flexibility, so the muscles that are around the joints and how that relates to your the different pull and tension on the body. The third category is your strengthening phase, and then the fourth is the balance. So they're kind of all interrelated, and there's a lot of exercises that can hit off 4 categories. But in general, if you kind of follow that same timeline of hit the motion first, everything else falls back into place. And I'll just give you a quick example. A lot of clients will come in, especially over the years as they start aging, and whether it's due to poor diet, lack of flexibility, lack of exercise, their joints get really stiff. So you see these movement patterns, and for example, you just take an older man in the 70s or 80s that starts walking with the feet turned out. That's just a capsular pattern. So where the femur goes into the acetabulum of the joints, maybe that femur rotates out, gets stuck because that capsule gets tight. Well, in general, it's harder at certain ages to open up joints because there's less elasticity of the muscle fibers, the connective tissue, or the joints. But in general, if you can start at a younger age and start to address this, it's a lot easier than you're not relying on medications and just that whole kind of roundabout way of getting there. So, and a lot less pain. But there's a lot of joint receptors on your joints. So basically, when you're able to get the joints back into place, I always tell people it's kind of like getting a plug into a light socket. If the plug's not all the way in, you don't get electricity and things don't work. Same thing with your joints. If you're offset, things aren't connecting, and all of a sudden, there's no electricity to the muscles and ligaments, tendons, everything around there to really fire like they should. So the whole goal is going through your workout, your performance, warm up first. It doesn't have to be a lot of stretching. It could be a lot of active motion, just lightweight or even no weight. I say is like I'll usually spend anywhere from 15-20 minutes warming up. That includes movement. It's not just laying there doing some stretches. Go in there, some kind of active motion, get everything warmed up, get the motion back in the joints. Once that happens, things connect. All of a sudden you have electricity, light to the joints. All of a sudden the muscles can fire. Then, once you've kind of mastered that and you've got a better posture, right? So I always tell people, like, set your posture first before the workout. You've got a better posture of the joints. The frame sets better. Then the muscles can line up better. The tension, so, if I'm offset my pulley, think about a pulley. If you're pulling down, or you have one of those come-alongs or one of those, elastic bands where you're basically pulling. If it's offset, it doesn't quite pull as right, or you don't get that tension and the forces like you should. So you realign the pulley, all of a sudden the muscle fibers can stretch out, they can contract. Then you have more efficiency of your muscles, tendons. So once you get the joints back into place, you want to keep them there. You work on the flexibility of the muscles all around there. You do your stretches like your hamstrings, quads, piriformis. There's a lot of different things there we can go over more in depth later on. But then your strength comes back. So you're not really having to work so hard on the strengthening and balance phase, that third and fourth, because if you master the first two, really the first one, everything else starts to fall in place, if that makes sense. So, master the mobility, the motion of the joints. Then second, the flexibility of the muscles. So I know a lot of people don't like stretching. That's good news for you, because if you can master the motion part just through motion exercises that aren't as painful, then you don't have to worry about the pain of the stretching part as much, because then the muscle tension is relaxed and it's easier to stretch. And then for those that want to work on their strengthening phase, or the bulk of the muscle, depending on their goals, then they can work on the strengthening phase. And automatically, honestly, a lot of times the balance just comes back into play, unless you have some kind of underlying issue within, which can be nutritional, it could be environmental, it could be a lot of different factors where you have fluid within the buildup within the ear that throws off the bones for the vestibular. But a lot of times it's just maybe some allergies or just due to poor diet that people get inflammation and it throws off their balance. So a lot of interrelationships there, but keep it simple. You know, master the motion first, then the flexibility tends to fall into place, then the strength tends to fall into place, and then the balance will take care of itself. So keep it simple, keep moving, and like I said, just work on your movement sequence, and then your patterns will be a lot more efficient when you're going through the gym.